My
Continue.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for all participating in tonight's new member social or new member webinar. We'll go over and introduce everyone here real quick. Let me get my screen set up. To all the attendees that are present, I just want to let you know we have our chat and our Q&A session that's open. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A box. We will go ahead and answer those questions. If you have any comments that you want to add into the chat, go ahead and add those there. So let's get this started. All right. So just to go ahead and give everyone here a quick introduction of who all we have on the panel. My name is Christopher Lukshik. I currently work for Rite Aid Corporation, and I am the membership committee chair for 2021. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Andy next. Andy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Enders. I am a longtime board member at HYP. Still very much enjoy the organization as much as I did when I first joined many years ago. And I currently serve as president and general counsel at Enders, independent insurance, financial services, and benefits firm.
Thanks so much, Andy. Zach, go ahead.
Zach, you're still muted.
It was such a good joke and opener too, man. How do I start that again? Yes. So I have glasses, more facial hair, and no helmet, but it's still me. And I work for Habitat for Humanity at their Restore in Harrisburg, selling donated materials to fundraise for, building and fixing up people's homes here in Dauphin County. And I've been helping out with Harrisburg Young Professionals and other volunteer stuff for about 3-ish years now. So excited to be here tonight.
Zach, we're really excited to have you on. Thank you so much. Brittany, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm the social committee chair. This is my 4th year in a leadership role within HYP and my 6th year being involved even as a member with Harrisburg Young Professionals. I currently work as a catering manager for Premier Catering located out in Camp Hill. So I help plan and execute tons of events that are going on within the area.
Brittany, thanks so much. We have a couple other attendees that are not on the slide. Jade, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, so the space bar was not working. But I am Jade Honey. I am a board member with the Harrisburg Young Professionals. I think I've been involved with the organization 3-4+ years. I'm having so much fun that I'm losing track of time. But I've been a long time resident of Harrisburg city and then also the suburbs of Harrisburg. I've held most of my entire career in Harrisburg, so I'm pretty well connected with business and industry in the city, and just have wonderful things to say about the community in which we live in.
All right, Jade, thank you so very much. I'm next going to introduce Mo, who is not only going to be a panelist, but she's also going to be our moderator and technical assistance for the evening. Mo, thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Monica, or you can feel free to address me as Mo. I feel like a vet at this point. I think I've been involved from like the volunteer level and all the way up for about 9 years now with HYP, which seems like a very, very long time. I've been a resident of Midtown for, I think, around 5 years now. And I currently sit on the executive board with Jade.
Mo, thanks so much. Last but certainly not least, Olivia, she was actually the first co-chair that I was ever introduced to in HYP, and she had the pleasure of having me on her committee. Olivia.
I sure did. Thanks, Chris. Good evening, everyone. My name's Olivia. I was new to Harrisburg 4 years ago. I bounced around between North Carolina and DC, finally settling in Harrisburg and taking on a job in public affairs. And I've really enjoyed being a member all the way up to now being on the board of HYP. I think it was a great way for me to get to know the city, where to live, where to go eat, where to exercise, and just figuring out a whole new place very quickly with so many friendly faces. So I welcome you all, and I know a couple of you are new to the area. I'm so glad to see you were able to join us.
All right, Olivia, thank you so very much for that. So just a real quick overview of what we're going to go over tonight. We're going to talk about HYP and Harrisburg City as a whole. We're going to talk about the stuff that we do in Harrisburg and how we make an impact at HYP. And as stated already, we're going to take all of your questions and we're going to answer them. So feel free again to use the question and answer. We have the chat open still, so if you have any comments, go ahead and drop those in there. We want to hear from all of our participants. And Andy, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you right now.
Thanks, Chris. We are so delighted to be able to sponsor these sessions for the upcoming portion of the year. HYP has been something that's been very important to our organization. I think I have at least one member of our team on tonight. Beck, if you're out there, I'm not going to scroll while I'm doing this. I'm going to call out Beck Wiles, who I was thrilled when he tipped me off he was going to be joining us tonight. HYP has been very impactful to our organization, as many members of our team have been involved in HYP in many capacities over the last number of years. I believe that HYP is just such a fertile learning ground for experiences in nonprofit service, community engagement, but also having a fun time with good people. We can't lose sight of that. Even though we're a professional organization, we balance that out with a lot of activities that I think are culturally relevant, engaging, and a lot of fun. So our team up at Enders, we are a full service property and casualty, health, life, and benefits firm. And we also do offer a 5% credit for HYP members through one of our carrier partners. So a little perk of joining and becoming a member of HYP, our team can assist you in getting a little discount on your homeowners and personal auto insurance. Thanks, everyone.
All right, Andy, thanks so very much. I do see that Beck is on the participants as well, too. So that's awesome that you not only get brought yourself, but another coworker out here as well. So let's talk about Harrisburg Young Professionals and all the fun stuff that we do. So HYP was founded in 1998 by 5 friends in the area that wanted to find a way to have an impact on the city as a whole. And that's reflected through our mission, which is we serve as a catalyst in making Harrisburg a better place to live, work, and play while developing and retaining future leaders. All leadership, so everyone who's present here tonight on the panel is under 40 years of age. That is a requirement for us. You can join HYP at any age, but in order to serve in any type of leadership role, you do have to be under 40. We have 9 standing committees, which we will show on the next part of the presentation here, and 1 partnership committee. And we've served the community through numerous service projects, including Forester Street cleanup. I know that last year we did a cleanup in Allison Hill. We usually do work over on City Island to volunteer, just to name a few things. And then we have our sports leagues, which is just a phenomenal way to get people out of their houses, getting them engaged and not just focusing solely on the professional side of things. So here's a list of all of our committees. I will be emailing out a copy of this presentation so that you can see it. Oh, go back here, sorry. And yeah, so if anyone has any questions about any of these committees, go ahead and drop them in here. I know that we have, like I said, Brittany from Social, Zach's on here from City Living, but I'm pretty sure everyone on this panel can talk to just about any of these committees that we have. And one of the challenges that we've had throughout the 2020 year was adapting to the coronavirus. And some of the things that we've done, we've still gone through and done service projects. You can see there's a couple of us that are in the middle picture right there who are actually on the panel tonight. Over in the far right, you can see part of the Allison Hill cleanup. We did a golf event last year. Well, does anyone remember what that event was? It was
The Scramble. Golf
right.
tournament.
Thank you. You see, I knew that it was good to have everyone else on here. And we're still doing a lot of different events online. Zoom has become crucial to us at the moment, and we're still having fun. We're going at it. I mean, this hasn't slowed us down one bit, and I'm so excited to be a part of this organization. So just to talk about the city a little bit, I think the most exciting piece of this right here is that for the 2021 year, Harrisburg ranked number 7 in the real estate market for 2021. And we beat out Denver, Colorado. That's awesome. I'm really excited about that. Other key facts, unemployment, approximately 3.4%. These numbers here are slightly dated from 2019. I looked to see if there was more current stuff. I wasn't able to find anything immediately. Median household income, $70,000. Household income growth, 3.9%. And tech employment, 2%. The median housing list price that you see here, this was actually pulled from realtor.com for the 2021 year, $262,000. And the 5-year wage growth, 18.9%. And we have a lot of really cool events that go on in Harrisburg. I listed a couple here. We have the Capona Festival, the Pennsylvania Farm Show. We also have a lot of interesting historical sites, as well as nature sanctuaries as well too. And if anyone wants to talk about any of these, please feel free to just unmute yourself, jump right in. We can cover whatever you guys want to talk about.
I think Chris, if I can, I'm going to jump in. I think the beauty of Harrisburg, particularly for those that are looking to relocate to this area, is that, you can be in Hershey, Pennsylvania in about 15 minutes, or you can be in the middle of farmland in Perry County in about 15 minutes. It just depends on where you're at and where you're going. I like to tell people that are traveling to Harrisburg, it's really just one big loop between 83 and 81. And you can go, kind of around the city. And there's all sorts of, checkpoints off of that, you can be on Wildwood, taking a hike. And in 5 minutes, you can be downtown enjoying a beer afterwards. So it's really diverse in the area and the scenery and the opportunities that it offers anybody that's living here.
Yeah, Harrisburg actually has a very rich history of being a transportation hub, because there's just naturally, there are 2 different valleys that intersect right here. And that's why the city was founded, it was a perfect spot to ford the Susquehanna River. And they've been doing it for millennia before any European settlers got here. But because of that, we are ideally located to quickly access everything that Pennsylvania has to offer, and not just PA. Since we're in South Central, we have access to all of the big cities. It's a quick train ride to Philadelphia, easy to get to DC and New York City as well. But it's also separated from those places, so you have that kind of breathing room. And also the real estate market is much cheaper here than any of those megalopolises would be. So yeah, it's just the perfect hub for a lot of different activities to launch quickly, but also recuperate.
Yeah, and Zach, you actually told me when we talked last week about how Capona Festival was started because of the dam that was built. What was the right over by the bridge there, the 81, I think it's 83, 81, one of those.
Yeah, the Dock Street Dam.
Yeah.
Yep. we're right before I mean, everybody knows about how cities have had trouble in the later half of the 20th century. But at the beginning of the 1900s, Harrisburg had tons of money invested into it, and we're still able to experience the benefits of those things. Riverfront Park, the Green Belt, Wildwood Nature Reserve was a swamp before it was that. And then during the rough period, it was actually a dumping ground for a while too, and briefly a zoo. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool things in Harrisburg that are over 100 years old. But yeah, it's a really fascinating city to live in.
Awesome.
I don't want
Anyone
to geek
else?
out too much.
Oh, sorry, Zach. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Anyone else have anything that they want to add before we move on?
Did anyone catch the virtual coverage of the farm show?
No, I didn't.
The farm show is so weird because it's such a staple, so it was weird not to go and smell like a barnyard animal, but I definitely missed it.
I did go to the food event that they had in October whenever they were doing that, since you can't get your farm show milkshake this year.
No, they were actually doing pop-ups for the milkshake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At like every Carnes had like a pop-up day. So they've been trying to get out there because I know that's probably the best thing everyone misses is the farm show milkshakes. So hopefully if any of you new people haven't had the experience of what the farm show is, hopefully next year you'll get the chance. It's cheesy because I love going there. I've been going like many years, like ever since I was a kid. It's just a good way to understand like agriculturally where we're at. But it's also a great excuse to look at really cute little animals like on the duck slide.
Or the rabbits.
Oh yeah, the big old chub rabbits. Gosh, yeah. Now I'm hungry. I'm just thinking of all the fried food I've consumed over the years at the farm show.
I know. All right. Brittany, we're gonna let you go here, but real quick before we get started, we do have a poll question that I want to ask all of our attendees, and that question is, where are you currently residing? As far as, are you in the city? Are you outside of the city? I know that we have an out-of-state attendee right now, which is awesome. So yeah, Mo, could you run that for us? We'll give everyone a minute here to respond to that.
I'm glad we had the parentheses to remind me what city we're talking about.
I know that was definitely me that put that together. So you're very welcome, Zach.
Maybe it was a template you're going to use for Lancaster as well. Okay, a lot of burbs. Cool.
All right, yeah. So we're actually pretty evenly split here on the poll. We definitely have a lot of people from the burb, but we got people from outside of the city and people that live inside of the city. This is probably about the most evenly split that I've seen since I've been doing these webinars.
I mean, I'm considered outside of Harrisburg, but I can look out my window right now and look at the city of Harrisburg. So I don't know if I'm considered the suburbs or elsewhere, but I'm pretty darn close.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same, Brittany. Being in Susquehanna Township in an old uptown, I'm just literally a block away from the line. So I don't know if you want to call that the suburbs, but yeah, pretty darn close to the city.
Definitely. Yeah, I live in New Cumberland as well too. So while I can see the city, I'm technically not in the city or the burbs. Brittany, did you want to go ahead and handle the social committee and what's coming up?
I suppose. So again, I'm Brittany. For any of you that just joined us, I run social committee within HYP. It's my 4th year being involved with social committee. So I have overseen at least 100 events within Harrisburg Young Professionals in that time span. Social committee is probably one of the busier committees. We actually have 2 events every single month. We have a first Friday and a second Wednesday networking social. First Friday tends to be more of a happy hour, socializing, fun evening, whereas second Wednesday is geared towards networking. Some of our socials, we've actually have had other nonprofits joined in our socials, like the American Red Cross or the LGBT Center has joined us on some networking socials as well. So we try to do a little bit of outreach with that, just so you can see other opportunities that may be out there to get you involved. We try not to be super selfish with membership and volunteers. Our annual events that we host every year would be our Puppies and Pints event, where we work with a local animal shelter, and they'll bring 8 to 10 dogs, puppies that are available for adoption. And then we also provide a donation list that they are currently in need of. So we collect donations for them. This 2020 would have been our 4th year running the event. So this is technically our 4th year running the event. It's held in September every year. It is outside. And we are hoping to be able to pull off that event as well. Every dog that comes out is usually adopted within a week or 2 of being at the event, especially with all of the marketing that the event gets as well. Our other annual event is the Holiday Gala, which is of course held in December. We have that event at the Capitol building. We've had it at the Civil War Museum. We've recently had it at Level 2. It's a fun event, just a nice way to kind of end the year and thank everybody for being a member. It is also a free event to members. It is not a free event to non-members, so that's a perk of your membership. Our other big event is 6 Degrees, which is held in the spring. It is a one-on-one networking, what's the word I'm looking for here? Chris, help me. It's like speed dating. It's speed networking. So you'll actually get to sit down for a couple minutes with local CEOs and entrepreneurs within the city and ask them straight up questions like how did you get started? What do you do? How are you hiring? I mean, you can be upfront and as honest as you want. That's held at the Hilton every year, traditionally in the spring, and we're hoping to put that event together for early fall if we can be in person. And then our other big event, which is actually very new to HYP, is 20 in their 20s. That is held in November. It's a showcase. It's a showcase of Harrisburg's rising stars, all under the age of 30. There's 4 special designations for that event as well, where community connectors, emerging entrepreneurs, or tech titans. Winners are represented across the Harrisburg area, including Members First. Help me, who else has been involved with that?
I'm trying to think. I don't remember if, I know that Rite Aid sponsored us before in the past. I don't know if they've been involved with that or not.
Yeah, Members First, Zero Day, I believe Webpage FX has been involved. Tons of companies. It's our 3rd year doing it. So you can imagine the 60 people that we've been able to highlight and the work that they've done either within their company, within the city of Harrisburg, personal levels. It's a really neat, interesting event thing that we do every year. And you'll be seeing more of that coming out in the springtime actually as well. Our upcoming events that we will be having is our virtual trivia's night. It's a 90s trivia. That's going to be held next month, February 10th. It's also going to be on Zoom, but there will be a prize for first place winners. So if you are born in the 90s, know everything about the 90s, I highly recommend coming in and attending that event. The questions are pretty hard. At least I don't know all of them. I learned a lot. And then we also have a virtual bingo night coming up in April. The remaining year, we kind of have an idea of what we're looking to do. Obviously, given the pandemic, everything's kind of up in the air, but we're gonna push through. If you do want to get involved and you want to stay up to date with social events and what we're planning, you can email us at social@hyp.org. Every month, you're going to receive our committee meeting minutes that will include volunteer opportunities within HYP or even in the community, brainstorming for new events and upcoming HYP events as a whole. And once we're able to have our in-person meetings, you can then join us for our monthly committee meetings that are held on the first Monday of every month at 6 o'clock. I think I covered everything.
I think you did as well too, Brittany. When you were talking about the speed dating with the the leadership from the area, it reminded me when Carl sent us an email, and one of the questions that he was asking about is what are some of the career opportunities in the area? And I just pulled together a couple of the companies that are here, but I didn't realize how many large businesses we have that are headquartered here in the Harrisburg area. I obviously know about Rite Aid. I'm working for them, but we have Ollie's Bargain Outlet is headquartered right here in Harrisburg. I never knew that before. That was pretty wild. We have D&H Distributing, which is a very large company. Phoenix Contact is right in the area. And I know that WebFX is here. They must be doing something really good because they were voted best place to work in Pennsylvania for 2020.
And as Jade had mentioned, Hershey, that's a big company to get involved with. And Lindt Chocolate actually has a warehouse out in Carlisle as well. So, competing. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of corporate hubs here in Harrisburg. And it's interesting. It's kind of mind-blowing to see how big some of them are. Even out in Carlisle, I know we're Harrisburg, but there's a lot of transportation companies out in Carlisle, and making Harrisburg a really nice hub to kind of get your taste of both worlds, city and the suburbs. It's mind-blowing to know how many are out there.
Yeah. And let's also not forget about Enders Insurance. Thank you guys again for the sponsorship this evening. Really, really appreciate it. All right. Brittany, does that cover everything that you have? Are you good?
If nobody has any input or questions, yeah.
All right. The only question I have while we do start moving on here, for the 90s trivia night, are we supposed to dress up in theme for that?
So we talked about this, but I'm going to dress up in my hot pink windbreaker and scrunchie because that's just who I am as a person. So if that's also who you are as a person, it's strongly encouraged.
Nice. Awesome. Brittany, thank you so much. All right. Zach,
yeah,
we got you right here. I think that you're going to start us off with a question, aren't you?
Maybe. I have a ring light in my face, so my ability to read my own slides a little hazy, but I think the question is, what is the City Living Committee? And unfortunately, that is a redundant question, or a, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, gracious, I'm forgetting how to speak the English language.
Looking for rhetorical, Zach.
Rhetorical, thank you, not redundant. Thank you, Andy, our sponsor for the night. So yes, rhetorical question, because I'm the one that has to answer that. And the City Living Committee is malleable, but the plan for City Living is helping people understand and increase their desire to live in a city environment. Even though we've been talking all night about what makes Harrisburg great, we understand that just looking at the statistical shape of the world, there's a increasing trend of people moving away from small cities and small towns into large, international sized cities, New York, Los Angeles, Austin, Texas, there's that continuing trend that happens. When I was 17, I wanted to get as far away from my hometown in Adams County as possible, and I did not think Harrisburg was far enough. I came back out of a bunch of factors, but I stayed because I liked the vibe of the city and I liked the size of the city. But not everyone's like that. Living in a city, especially one like Harrisburg, can prove to be challenging. We've talked about the suburbs and all the things they offer, and a lot of suburbs have advantages over cities, partly because they were designed around the car, which is what most of the Harrisburg area relies on to get around. If you live in the city, you have to deal with things like parking tickets, finding a spot to park, period, dealing with buses, pedestrians, bad sidewalk infrastructure, bad just road infrastructure, because you have a city that is over 200 years old as opposed to a suburb that's only 20 or 30. So one of the things that Harrisburg Young Professionals attempts to do is encourage folks to live in the city limits through a home loan program, where we raise money and then Harrisburg Young Professional members can apply for that money. And sorry, not a loan, a grant. That money is then given to them to help them with closing costs on buying a house within the city limits. And we've raised thousands of dollars for that program over the years. Last year, we had a bit of a hiccup because we were transitioning from a home tour where we would go to different houses in a neighborhood and show off those homes. And we were going to transition to a derby day where we would have everybody in crazy outfits, seersucker suits, and big hats to watch the Kentucky Derby. But again, COVID kind of threw a wrench in that plan. But we still want to make that happen this year. And the City Living Committee isn't as involved in that anymore. So we're going to focus on some other things. So I'm rambling a little bit. This is my first time giving a Zoom presentation. So if I leave you in the dust,
Great,
please.
Zach.
Thank you. And I want to say another thing about just Harrisburg Young Professionals as a whole. Every committee has a different co-chair leadership structure. So what the committee can look like year after year can vary drastically. And it gives folks like us who might not have had a leadership role before being in HYP, it gives us a chance to learn the ropes, so to speak, with a good support structure underneath of us if we start to feel like we're slipping. So if you're looking for ways to pad out that resume and start to wet your toes in leadership, HYP is a fantastic organization for that. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is what is the city limits? Who works in Harrisburg as opposed to who lives in Harrisburg? As we saw from that poll, quite a few of us live out in the suburbs, but might work in the city. That's a relatively new concept for just cities. Over the course of centuries, most of the time you lived and worked within a 20-minute walk of your workplace and your home. That changed a lot in the last 100 years. So now you can live and play and work in entirely different areas. So one thing that we've looked at is, okay, how do we make all of our membership have a good time with being a member? Like, do you have to live, work, and play in this little box? Or can we change up our programs and what we offer based on what you are interested in and where you're coming from? So that's why we have 9 different committees. But for the city living one in particular, we try and help make city life a little less intimidating. So we talk about, how do you get around the city safely and without pulling your hair out or getting a $50 ticket for parking in front of a fire hydrant like I have. We kind of use the experience from all of our members to make sure that if you're new to the city, or if you have lived in the suburbs your entire life, but you'd like to get more involved in the city, but are intimidated by the difference between the two, we use our combined experience to help, lower that barrier and make it easier for you to enjoy everything that Harrisburg has to offer without being super anxious about how are you safe in that area? Are you welcome in that area? How do you how do you give back in that little neighborhood? That's what HYP City Living is all about. And the last blurry line of text says, where do you think Harrisburg ends? So to you, when you think, oh yeah, Harrisburg, that's these streets, as opposed to the West Shore, East Shore divide, or even just Pembroke or Lower Susquehanna Township. The houses look identical on each side of the street, but you're no longer in the city. So when you think about what city living is, where do you draw the line? Where do you consider yourself out of bounds and in bounds, and why do you feel that way? I'd love to learn your own views outside of this. Shameless plug, I believe our email is cityliving at harrisburgyoungprofessionals.org. I think I need to get corrected on that because I'm pretty sure I screwed up. But
I think it's cityliving at hyp.org.
So much simpler. Okay. So yes, cityliving at hyp.org. Please, I want to know, what's your experience? What's your point of view? Do you feel like you aren't supposed to be in a certain place at a certain time? Or do you feel like you can't access something you really want to get involved in, but you don't feel like you can without help? Please, we are here to answer any of those questions and help kind of connect you with people who might be in the same boat as you.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, I'm going to run another poll question here for all of our participants. I'm really curious to know what made you interested in living in or near the Harrisburg area. And while we get that pulled up and we get the results tabulated on that, Zach, I just want to kind of talk to you. It's a really interesting question. Where do you think the city ends? When I was living in Dillsburg, anytime that I went out of town, out of state, and people said, well, where are you from? I used to just say, well, I'm from the Harrisburg area. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was anywhere near Harrisburg, 25 minutes away, but I still identified as Harrisburg was the closest metropolis to where I was.
Yeah, and that's a thing that you see pretty frequently. When I graduated school, I went way out of state for college, and I always said I was from Gettysburg because people out of the state of Pennsylvania, people can recognize where Gettysburg is better than they can for Harrisburg. But when you're just in your local community, you might say Lower Paxton Township, you might say New Cumberland, you might say Camp Hill, Mechanicsburg, and even just between Camp Hill and Mechanicsburg, there's a dichotomy, a differentiation between us, which is, it's in parts silly, but also totally human. It's to have boundaries of like, this is who I am, this is where I am, and this is this is who makes up my in-group. It's natural to have that sort of building of community by basing on who you are and who others are. But if we want to succeed as a city and as a region, we have to pull together and not have this kind of fighting that we have, especially the whole East Shore, West Shore thing. It just seems to be, if you're from outside of the city and you move here, it's ridiculous. It's a mile-wide river that you can walk across in sections, but there's this mental chasm between those two groups. And like I find myself hardly ever going to the West Shore, partly because I use an electric skateboard to get around, and the bridges are not exactly fun for that mode of transportation. But I like living in Harrisburg because it's big enough that there's plenty to do, and it's small enough that the problems seem fixable to me. Like I can look at the city and go, all right, XYZ is broken and we can fix it by AKQ. A larger city, it can become almost overwhelming and paralyzing by how big it can be. So that's why I like to live in Harrisburg, is it's got enough diversity and enough density that you can do something different every night and never get bored. But it's also small enough that you can build up that core group of friends through an HYP dodgeball team, and a night at Aruga's afterwards, when COVID's not wrecking our plans. And yeah, so that's why I live in Harrisburg.
And Zach, you might be interested to know that based on the poll that we just took, the majority of our respondents, 58%, said that they're here in the city or the Harrisburg area because of employment.
Yeah. A lot of transfers to Harrisburg are in a similar place. And one of the weird things about employment in Harrisburg is sometimes it's only temporary. A lot of the state government has contractors who only come in for a couple of months on a job. The health network that UPMC Pinnacle is a part of, a lot of their people are only there for a few months on a like a work study, or their nurses kind of move around to the different areas within the greater Harrisburg area. So even though you might come for work, you might not be tied down to one area for very long. So Harrisburg is a city of change, and even though you might have come for one thing, you might change in the future. And the good thing about Harrisburg is it's stable enough that even with the ups and downs of the 2008 housing crisis and all the other issues that the national economy has faced, the stability of Harrisburg's employment makes us able to kind of withstand some of those shocks, which
Yeah,
really
definitely, Zach. I think that you're bringing up some really good points right here. I don't mean to cut you off. I do want to make sure that we have time to get to some questions and answers from the panelists. So my sincerest apologies for that. But yeah, moving on right here. So I want to get everyone engaged. I want to get questions coming in from all of you guys. The first thing that I want to ask, especially Andy, of Jade, Mo, I know that we really haven't heard too much from you too, but what was it, or what's something that Harrisburg Young Professional has given to you, or what have you personally gotten out of this organization?
So, I mean, I'll start. You all know I'm not shy. So I think it's the opportunity to connect with local professionals and to gain a sense of community in a way that I may not have if I hadn't joined the organization. And I say that in like, I was all of a 21-year-old, single girl that moved to the city. And I made friends with like my neighbors and got to know my coworkers. But had I not joined HYP and met folks like Andy and Mo and a slew of other young professionals in this area, I don't know that I would be sitting here with you all today. It is truly one of the best parts about HYP, and I'm not just saying this as a board member and as an e-board member, is the true volunteerism that exists within the organization and the opportunity to get involved in so many things, or the opportunity to just do a few things. I am someone who I admittedly can overfill my calendar if I'm not careful. And so I'm very, I was going to say staunchy. I'm very picky about what I am a part of and what I'm not a part of. And I'm very picky about the events that I sign myself up for and the amount of time that I commit, after work, because I do an 8 to 10 hour day. And I think HYP has a slew of resources at their fingertips that at any point in time, and truly at any point in time in the last 10 years of my life, I could have picked up the phone and called or text or emailed one of them and asked the question or gotten advice. And they're, you know, folks are willing to give their resources and their hand, you know. So it is truly a phenomenal organization to be a part of. I selected Near Family only because I grew up kind of in this area. I went to school at Penn State, and I was ready to go. I was ready to get out of here. I was never going to come back. And I met my husband at a bar, and that was it. So we're here.
Hey, I'll follow up with Jade on that and talk about kind of the two sides of HYP, that personal and the fun piece, and that element of social engagement. And you know, Jade and I have been able to connect professionally, not even in our regular day jobs, but about other community organizations that we participate in. And that's one of the things that I think has been so impactful for me with HYP, building out this network of trusted friends, mentors, and professionals that if I need something for like the Dauphin County Library System, some guidance from Jade about how to approach a group that she used to work with, I'm able to do that. And that's really, really impactful. And it's hard to do unless you're consistently seeing some of the same people, whether it's electronically or just talking to them on the phone, or as we usually do in person. When you build those meaningful relationships, as Chris mentioned, like at Aruga's after a dodgeball game or a kickball game, or at an arts event that HYP has co-sponsored with a group like Theater Harrisburg. When we have those opportunities to connect on a personal basis, it makes those professional opportunities that much easier, and they happen very organically. So that is something about HYP that I think is very unique to our organization, and I really cherish and value that.
Andy, thanks so much. Mo, did you have anything that you wanted to add in there on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with a lot of things that Andy just said. I went to school in Pittsburgh, and obviously, you know, that's a bigger city, and there are different opportunities out there. And I ended up moving home because of a family situation. I was hesitant to move back, and I ended up staying. Now I've been back for like 9-10 years. Didn't expect to, because of being involved with HYP. I actually started in the social committee because a friend of mine from high school that I knew actually was the chair, got me involved. And then I ended up putting my friend up for the date auction. And that was awkward for everyone because we were new and we're like, no, sure, let's see where this goes. And that was a really fun event to be involved in and get that kind of social aspect that I needed. But we were actually, prior to the call kind of starting, you know, we were kind of all talking about like that relationship aspect, where I realized that I wouldn't have my roommate if it weren't for HYP. Brittany and I would not be as close as we are on a volunteer level, on a friend level, if it weren't for HYP.
Emergency contact.
Brittany has actually just become my emergency contact because I don't really, and so I don't have a lot of family. So I definitely depend on the relationships that I've built through this organization. And I actually probably wouldn't have gotten the job that I have now if it weren't for somebody recognizing the things that I do on a volunteer level. So it kind of translated from personal fun volunteer to my professional life. So it's been really impactful on like all these different levels. So, I mean, as cheesy as it is, you know, I love everything about what I do, and living in Midtown, like I'm really living the whole live, work, play. Like I live in Harrisburg. My office, I work for And Culture. Our office is at the old Waterworks building. I volunteer around here. I got involved with TFEC because of HYP. I got involved with the Red Shoe Crew with Ronald McDonald House because others that were involved with HYP are also involved with that organization. So it's this nice like web of like networking that has just been really meaningful for obviously the past 9 years. So I love it.
And I would also say, I'd like to really throw in, you know, the safety of Harrisburg City. It is significantly safer than what it used to be. I think anybody that is familiar with living in a city, there are obviously areas that, you just don't frequent after, 11 o'clock. I think there's that old saying, grandmother's saying like nothing good comes after like 11 o'clock. But the Midtown area and Shipoke and Old Uptown, I mean, there are some phenomenal neighborhoods that are extremely safe. There's a phenomenal police presence. They just updated all their lighting. Everything is LED. And of course, little things happen like parking tickets and like hard time finding like a place to park, although now you could like park anywhere because there's no one out. But it's just a really fun community to be a part of. The only reason we moved outside of the city is because we wanted a really big yard. And literally, like where I'm sitting today, right now, as I speak to you, I am only a block away from the line of the city. So the best part about being in, the old Uptown neighborhood where I live is that on a normal, non-COVID Friday, Saturday night, we can hop in an Uber, we can go downtown, we can have dinner, we can have drinks, and we can be back home in all of 3 minutes. So it doesn't take much more than that. The same with Hershey. And so I just want to assure people that are interested in living in the city, as a single white female, I felt very comfortable living on my own in the city. I never had an issue. I always kept my wits about me. So I was aware of my surroundings, but, we had a ton of fun when we lived in the city. We walked to a ton of bars. We have a ton of memories of just being a part of the community in which we lived in when we were in the city. And we felt completely and totally safe. So I just wanted to add that in for those that are like, have maybe heard things about Harrisburg because, God, the news only picks up the bad things. And there are sections of Harrisburg that are no joke, like don't hang out there. But for the most part, from the start of the city to the end of the city, as it pertains to the downtown area and the midtown area and the arts district and where, the Susquehanna Art Museum is and the State Museum, I mean, there are just some really phenomenal areas. And one of my favorite things to do actually in the summertime is to just ride our bikes through the different alleyways and the different streets, because literally every time you see something that you haven't seen before. There's like really cool little funky houses and little funky restaurants and just really awesome things that you don't necessarily experience on that much larger city scale. So I just wanted to add those 2 cents in there.
I have something too. Sorry, I'll be short. I'm a huge music buff. And at least recently in the past 2-3 years, there has been a music venue added to Harrisburg called XL Live. And they've also partnered with Harrisburg University, which, yes, we actually have a college in the city. They are more focused on tech, science, and e-games, but they have actually partnered together, surprisingly, to bring a decent amount of musical acts into the city. There's a lot of big names coming up, hopefully, in this year. Young the Giant is coming in, Dawes is coming in, Portugal the Man, Cage the Elephant, help me out here, there's a ton that are either riverfront within Harrisburg or they're at XL Live. There's been some moving into the Forum. And then there's even like intimate sessions going on at Little Lamps Coffee, whether that's the one on State Street or the one in Midtown. There is music everywhere in Harrisburg. And I did see somebody comment that if you think the city is boring, you're not looking hard enough. I mean, it's very true. There is always something going on, whether that is Harrisburg Senators baseball game, a concert going on, a trivia night going on at 0 Day. They also have bingo nights. There is something going on every day of the week. Obviously, that looks a little bit different right now. But, come the end of this, it's so much fun. There's always something to do. There really, really is.
Yeah, for sure.
And even during this in COVID times, one of the cool things that Harrisburg did is they actually shut down all of 2nd Street in the restaurant district, and everybody poured out into the streets. So even during COVID times in the summertime, it was actually quite lovely. You felt almost normal. Like we could sit outside, we could eat, we could drink, and just have a really good time.
Vanilla Ice has been to Harrisburg. Who else can say that?
That's very true. I got a question from a participant here. They're interested in learning how revitalization and beautification practices in Harrisburg can be replicated in the Cumberland County communities. Olivia, I'm going to let you take a stab at this one here.
Oh,
And
sure.
again, if anyone else has anything to add in, please feel free.
Thanks, Chris. I think the easiest answer I have is that Cumberland County should spend a lot of time beautifying Harrisburg to learn how we do it. But the secondary answer to that might be that, Harrisburg as a city has a lot of help, but it also needs a lot of help. And in Cumberland County, the main difference that we see might be related to the neighborhoods taking care of certain aspects of what's near them. And here in Harrisburg, we share neighborhoods and we want to do that, right? So when you come into Harrisburg, we as a community, those who work here, those who play here, and those who live here want you to see our state capitol and our main thoroughfares look beautiful and be inviting. And we want you to walk around and enjoy it. And we're working on that in some of our suburbs of Harrisburg. And I think the strong community that lives here, and to those who live close by and continue to volunteer and pour into the city, care about the city for a reason. And not to say that people don't care about where they live outside of the city too. I think Harrisburg being the hub for everyone in central Pennsylvania and as the state capital, you're going to have a lot more interaction and desire to build up public areas. And we appreciate that. And here at HYP, we have a beautification committee. They work to clean up a lot of different parks and areas where we show off our city. They also teach things on sustainability. They work with Zach on city living to go over to Wildwood Park, the sanctuary here on the cusp of the city. I mean, there's no shortage of opportunities to learn how to beautify spaces and work on pocket parks and things like that. And I think HYP is a great place to learn those skills and to take them with you no matter where you go. But we certainly hope you beautify the city too, in addition to Cumberland County.
Yeah, so as for like concrete ways you can do what we do in Harrisburg, show up to events that are already happening. So I am extremely pale and try to avoid white savior complex as much as possible. So rather than try and reinvent the wheel and say, I'm going to make this happen and I'm going to create this new foundation and this other thing, just show up to stuff that's already happening that you can relate to. If there's a cleanup already occurring, just show up to that and kind of take notes mentally as you go. And then if they're not doing it in your exact neighborhood and you want to see it happen in your neighborhood, well, you've already attended an event and knew how successful it was or knew what could be improved. So you can just shamelessly copy what they've done and make it fit your town. So go to events that are already occurring, bring those ideas back to your home, and then just keep doing it, keep showing up. And the more you show up, the more people will recognize that you're serious about this, and that you're willing to put your own skin in the game and your own time investment in it. Saying this is an idea that other people should take up never gains the same amount of traction as rolling up your own sleeves and cleaning up the cigarette butts in your own park. So that's how you can replicate what you see in Harrisburg. Just come to some of our events and do the same in yours.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't add to kind of sum that up. And I thought, Olivia, Zach, you nailed it. One of the most critical things is that our entire region is reliant upon Harrisburg. So as the city goes, our entire region goes. So it's really important. And that's why our mission with Harrisburg Young Professionals has been since day one, an utter and complete focus on the city of Harrisburg. So unless it's something that we cannot do within the city limits, it's not something that is necessarily going to fit into our mission. And that's okay with our organization. because our focus is the city of Harrisburg. And therefore, I believe very strongly that if we put our time and attention in on the city, even Cumberland County is going to benefit from that.
Awesome. Guys, I think that's an awesome response there. Ashley, I hope that we were able to help address that question. And that was a really good one that was asked too. I got one more question. We actually have an expert for this one here. He also happens to be sponsoring our event tonight. So Andy, Colin wants to know, is insurance typically higher in Harrisburg City than the surrounding suburbs?
That's a really good question. And I'm not going to bore everybody tonight with my deep level of appreciation for insurance. But what I will tell you is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, there's actually a prohibition against redlining. And that is meaning that insurance companies can't just like unilaterally strike out and carve out little sections with real specificity on property insurance. But as it relates to auto insurance, it's a little bit different because both homeowners and auto are going to be very reliant upon your home address and your garaging address. So in general, I will actually tell you that insurance rates for personal insurance, homeowners and auto, are very stable throughout the Harrisburg region, and they have been for a long time. And that is for a number of reasons, including economic stability, our weather patterns, the composition of our geology. So in general, it's pretty darn stable, and you're not going to see a big spike, and it's far less expensive than if you get out to the areas in the 5 counties around Philadelphia or head down even south of York as you start to head towards the outer suburbs of Baltimore too.
Awesome. We have a question from Beck here. Brittany, thank you so excuse me, Brittany's going to answer a question from Beck about how has the pandemic affected the ability for HYP to hold volunteer events?
A lot of nonprofit organizations, ones that I have worked with, such as the Central PA Food Bank, they were taking in volunteers. Volunteers were screened before coming in and help pack boxes. So there is volunteer events still out there. Are they definitely not as many as there normally is? A lot of nonprofits have closed down volunteer events, but are asking for donations in other forms and holding online galas. I know the Junior Diabetes Research Foundation is holding an online gala. The Humane Society has held an online gala. So there's still definitely ways to get involved. Every nonprofit has kind of found their own unique way on how to still have volunteer events. I'm an event planner, so everyone's a little worried about putting it out there and even booking anything for 2021, just because we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So they're out there, and if you want any help looking for any volunteer events, I'd be happy to help point you in some directions of things that are going on in the area.
All right. And Brittany can actually be reached at social@hyp.org. We are out of time for the evening, so we're just going to go ahead and wrap this up a little bit here. If you're interested in learning how you can get involved with HYP, what else there is to do in the city, anything else, I'm going to, again, send this slide deck out to everyone right here. But please reach out to membership@hyp.org if you have any questions about the organization as a whole. You can also reach out to info@hyp.org. You can reach Brittany at social@hyp.org. And we have Zach at cityliving@hyp.org. Guys, I just want to thank everyone again so much for coming out. This has been an awesome night. Does anyone else have anything before we hit it off here? All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening, and thanks for listening about Harrisburg and HYP.
Oh, I'm gonna eat so much food.
Thanks,
Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.